This begins the presentation on part 3 of my solution to assignment 8. So where we last left off, I was showing you the code that would validate the form and display the validation messages in this hidden div that we make appear when we have an error. Let's go through now. We've looked at view guestbook. We get that. We've looked at the errors. Let's go through having a successful addition. I'm going to put in Bob Smith and put in a phone number here, 777-555, and we'll give him a couple of different numbers there. And Bob likes Toronto. So home in quiet area. So now, looks like we filled everything in. Now I'm going to hit the Submit Information button. So we get that message that gives an acknowledgement to Bob Smith. We got 777. Looks like it says your P is in there. So we need to improve that and make that phone and not the value P. Remember that the values of these things don't have to be exactly what we're seeing. So that would need to be fixed. Right now, let's just go past that. And you are interested in living in Toronto. All right, home and quiet area. So let's go look at the code for this. So we're still in the guestbook. We got a lot going on here. I validated the form. Let's go back up to where I processed. This is the add to guestbook that we initially started. So we got past the validation. We got down here to our ajax. We're going to call the add to guestbook ajax program, get the information and response text, and we're going to process the add and return data. To send now, we've got to send something much more complicated before we process. Here's the send all the way down here. Look what I've got to build up. I've got to get the first name, last name, phone or email. I've got RB phone checked. Now this is different. I'm not going to get the value of RB phone because its value is going to be set. It's not going to change whether I select it or not. But what is going to change is whether or not it is checked. So here I get the actual element into RB phone. That's the pointing to the element. And I check to see if it is checked. So I'm going to look and see if that's true. If that's true, and that's what this means, if RB phone checked is true, then set the contact choice to P. Otherwise, the contact choice would be E. Now, I could have maybe spelled that out to be phone or email, so I wouldn't have gotten just P on my form the way I did that. So I get the city, the comments, that's normal, and here I'm building this very long delimited string of data. And here I'm concatenating each time. I'm just adding to it. It's a little easier to break it up this way. It's easier to see. And I'm passing that concatenated string to, all the way up here, this program. Let's go look at this program. Add to guestbook, Ajax. I've got common functions, things that you're used to seeing. And I'm building an insert statement into guestbook with all these different columns that we passed. The contact date I calculate up here. That wasn't passed. I use the date function to get the current date when this runs. So I have to build this, and this is why I build two at a time, because I've got this business with these delimiters having to be part of the string, so it'll be wrapped around last name and first name and what have you. And here I said if contact choice was phone, so I should have made that phone instead of P back in the other program to make that work out properly. So notice that if it's one or the other, I make either the phone or email show here in the phone area and make that null, or I make the phone number null and the email not null. So I have the city, comments, and here I'm running that special function I showed you in an earlier lesson that passes a statement that's not a select statement, just an insert, delete, or update. Now it says display new page. It's not really a new page here. I'm building up something called the return message, and I print the return message. Remember, this is an Ajax program. So I'm not writing to a web page here. I'm sending back all this HTML that I built up here, the paragraphs and the text area. And that's what I saw here. I set that on the div when I was done, and we got to see it. One last thing, let's go back to the real estate, is we have the mortgage calculator. We click on that, and here I have the amounts and the open field here. So if I put in 200,000 here and an interest rate of 5, I calculate the payment. You can see I get that if I get a more expensive house and I run it, I get a different payment, different interest rate as well. Put in 8, I get that. If I put in 9, I get a different calculation on the calculated monthly payment. So back to the home page. That's pretty much our application. As you can see, it's taken me 3 presentations just to walk you through the basics of the code of what you needed to do. But this is a good example of a basic structure of a web application. Clearly, you would want to hire a better graphic designer than me, but this gives you the key elements if you're going to be a programmer using PHP and JavaScript and Ajax on a website. You'll be able to work with those people using this kind of information.